For many of us, it'll start off with a very, very cold morning. Take a look at some of these stats. The coldest so far in this column for Chicago, right at freezing. St. Louis, 30 degrees. Indianapolis, you've managed to get down to 29 this season. Columbus, Ohio, 31. But here is where we're headed by Friday morning. Everybody down into the 20s. And how about you, Chicago? Forecast low Friday morning of 20. So it is going to be a little bit of a rude awakening. You could say that to wrap up the week. Well, here we are right now. We're right above freezing in Chicago. Fargo at 15. We have Kansas City at 30 degrees. Those northerly winds adding a little bit of a bite to that chill. Today we managed to get up into the mid and upper 40s. Chicago lower 50s from St. Louis to Cincinnati, Des Moines and Minneapolis. You'll stay into the 40s today. But how much staying power does this have? We know this time of year it's a little bit harder to get out of the much colder rut, but that's what we see as we get into the later part of the week. And watch how it slams into the northeast. We'll talk about that in a second. But we have this sort of entrenched, so it won't be a one and done type of morning. We'll be kind of in it for a little bit. Tomorrow, already seeing those forecast high temperatures, by the way, below freezing in Minneapolis and International Falls, Sioux Falls as well. Green Bay, you are there as well. By Friday morning, now we're down into the teens in cities like Minneapolis. How about a low of 1 below in International Falls? This is not a wind chill forecast. This is the actual air temperature. And then by Friday, those highs struggling to get above freezing in cities like Detroit, Chicago, even Des Moines, and we're stuck in the 40s from Kansas City to St. Louis. So the trend here in Minneapolis, as you can see, your average high this time of year, 46 degrees. We are going to be well below that for high temperatures, and you can bet those morning lows will be pretty chilly as well. So when we say get ready and have your winter gear ready, that's what we mean. Steve in Atlanta. So there are a few spots that we're tracking, and some of us, it's more like a spitting rainfall, others it's steadier, and so we'll see how all of this will progress. We have this upper level low pushing off to the east. That moisture is along that stalled front, so that's where we're going to see where that combination is some of that heavier rainfall. But as that front finally gets that push to the southeast, we'll get a chance to see some drier conditions as it stalls out over Florida there. They'll continue to see more showers. But here's the current setup. If you're not seeing the rainfall across the south, it is definitely a murky, kind of muggy start to the day. That includes in Atlanta as well as you head towards Montgomery and Jackson. But there's that heavy rain, and you see how it's not moving much from that boundary. It hasn't gotten that kick yet. So Oklahoma City, you're right on the northern edge of it. It looks like Dallas, you are about ready to see some of that heaviest rainfall, where it's more scattered showers from Roanoke to Raleigh, but just a very gray kind of day. So looking ahead the next couple of hours, you see more occasional showers there in the southeast, but that heavier, steadier rainfall begins to slide off to the east. It does get stretched out, but that means places like Jackson and Birmingham, Atlanta, you're really not out of the woods as far as rain chances, even as we get through tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind if you have some travel plans. Of course, perhaps there'll be another rainy day at the bus stop, and certainly for that morning drive. Shreveport, bright sunshine though awaits you on Thursday. All right, now let's talk about some crazy temperature changes here, Dallas. What a reversal of fortune. Can we say that enough? It is 48 degrees out there right now, and really that's where you're going to stay. A far cry from the stretch of 90s that we just got through, and not just any stretch. Record-setting, record-smashing 90s. Remember, we broke our all-time November high temperature. This was last week on Thursday when you got to 94. Then you had another 90-degree day on Saturday. Tied your all-time record high for November again on Sunday. And here we are on Wednesday with highs only into the 40s. Really, really crazy. I don't even know what you do with that, right? You can see through the later part of the week, those northerly winds is going to help that cool weather continue to expand off to the south. So today, 49 Dallas, you've got 50 degrees in Little Rock. You still see it sort of settled in there with 50s and 60s in the Pacific, but also in the Atlantic Basin. And we still have a little bit to go now. Officially, the season ending this month. But you see that we've had activity in every month. But as we've seen with this season, certainly, and climatologically speaking, it peaks in September. We have another sort of little bump in October before we round out in November and continue that downward slide. But as we mentioned, that there is still activity, and we have it on the map right now. So 4% of the season still left to go. That, again, is just looking at the calendar. If the conditions are there, tropical systems will happen. So we know that. But if you look statistically at the storm origins this time of year, a couple of areas areas sort of stand out. You still have the Caribbean, you still have the warm waters of parts of the Atlantic, but you also have some random spots out in the Atlantic. And so that's when we can see even subtropical systems. Right now, we actually have a tropical storm, and its name is Rena, and you see the familiar swirl, but you're not looking at anything that just screams at you tropical, and there's certainly not a threat to land, but still something interesting to talk about. 60-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving to the north at 21 miles per hour. So there's that official path there, once again taking that familiar right-hand curve, and at that point probably losing its tropical characteristics, but nonetheless still something to struggling to stay into the upper 40s. Unbelievable. So what's going on? Well, along with the chill, we've got a lot of rain to work with, so it really feels terrible outside there. You've got an upper disturbance moving off to the southeast, so jet stream winds stretched from west to east, and that's right along a boundary at the surface here that's really not going anywhere, at least for now. And that's where we see the concentration of moisture. But it's right here that we're seeing some of the steadier rainfall. That'll eventually be on the move along with our boundary, getting that push, dragging this cold front off to the southeast. It'll finally get that push as we get in through tomorrow. So some sunshine in the forecast. You just have a little bit more to get through. Dallas, it could be a lot more. You see that band of sort of yellow and orange. That's just to the north of the interstate here. So Abilene, some light showers, Dallas, some light showers, but north of there might be a little bit steadier. But it's stretched out all the way to Shreveport. Now, in the southeast and the mid-Atlantic, it's not so much steady. It's sort of this spitting rainfall, just enough to make it pretty gloomy. You saw that Raleigh shot. Charlotte, showers and 48. Definitely want to grab that umbrella, but you're not going to be lost without it if you do forget it. But looking at the clock and find your spot on the map through the lunch hour, some of the steadier rainfall headed towards Shreveport, as well as just to the north of Jackson. A few scattered showers around for the evening drive in Atlanta. A little steadier rainfall as we get through overnight, so there will likely be some leftover rain for that morning drive from Montgomery to Atlanta tomorrow, and then finally moving off towards Charleston and Raleigh by the lunch hour tomorrow. But you see that delineation of the cloud cover, finally getting some of that to come on through, and that sunshine will be back eventually. But you look at some of the rainfall total, not too much generally.